What is going on, everyone? General Manager Nick Caserio deserves a round of applause for the great job he did this offseason and has been doing as the GM for the Houston Texans. It is crazy what one offseason can do for a franchise. Let's not forget, we were coming off of a one and done David Culley coach Houston Texans team that went 4-13. The year after that, a one and done from Lovie Smith. The Houston Texans win 3-13-1. It looked like we were on the trajectory of being a dysfunctional franchise, and Nick Caserio had one off season to do it. And damn, he did. Nick hit on everything in the offseason. He hit on the coaching hire. DeMeco Ryans already has changed the culture of this team. It is back to winning. When you look at the stadium, it gets fuller every single week that goes by. And like CJ Stroud said after the press conference, we need NRG to be rocking Sunday this game against the Arizona Cardinals. But also allowing DeMeco Ryans to select his coaching staff: Bobby Slowick, Matt Burke. Nick Caserio hit on free agency. A veteran was brought in for every position group, and those veterans have been impactful for this team. Some of them have been named captains, and quite frankly, all of these free agents have attributed to victories in H-Town. And Nick Caserio hit on the draft, finding the biggest steal, Tank Dell, selecting Will Anderson Jr. with the 3rd overall pick. You made a blockbuster trade to go up and get him. And then you selected the phenom franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years for the Texans, CJ Stroud. Nick Caserio deserves a lot of credit for this turnaround. We are going to read this article by our guy John Crumpler. He talked about Nick Caserio. Welcome to the 713 Houston Sportcast. I am your host, Ruben Calvillo. I drop daily Houston Texans content, so make sure you guys are following me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for the latest news, rumors, and updates. And if you guys are new here to the channel, welcome. Just hit 8,000 subscribers, trying to hit 9K by weeks 10 or 11. Please help me get there. And thank y'all so much for watching today's episode. Now, this article is from our friend John Crumpler, the lead analyst for the USA Today's Texan Wire, a friend of the show. He dropped an article, 4 reasons Texans general manager Nick Caserio deserves NFL Executive of the Year. The first point: courageous coaching changes. Caserio's first big fish was his most important. San Francisco 49er defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans agreed to come home to the franchise where he once was Defensive Rookie of the Year. Ryans not only brought one of the sharpest defensive minds in football, but also immediate credibility to a franchise that sorely needed it. Houston's next step is one of their general manager had somewhat struggled with his first 2 seasons. Caserio got out of the way. Ryans was entitled to bring in an entire coaching staff of his own choosing, and he did an excellent job. Offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick has said previously he would only leave San Francisco with Ryans, and his arrival has been pivotal in the development of rookie CJ Stroud. Matt Burke brought a needed veteran presence as defensive coordinator, and his impact on the ferocity of the defensive line is notable. I mean, this coaching staff has done wonders for this young Houston Texans team. With Bobby Slowick, you are already hearing other NFL teams calling him their future head coach. He is doing a great job. First time as a offensive coordinator, first time as a play caller. with Matt Burke, very familiar with J.J. Watt, right? We got the J.J. Watt stamp of approval, and this defensive line is nasty. They are not getting bullied like they were the previous years. And then when head coach DeMeco Ryans, when he got hired, it felt like a weight was lifted off our shoulders because we knew that he can bring a winning culture to Houston, and he is doing just that. The second point, NFL free agency masterclass. The Texans had real money to spend in free agency. After 10 weeks, it seems fair to say they crushed the annual spending period last month. It's worth looking at the highlights. Wide receiver Robert Woods was brought in before free agency started and serves as a key safety blanket for Stroud during the early weeks of the season. Wide receiver Noah Brown was brought in and almost an afterthought, but has since exploded in the absence of Woods due to injury. Brown had 150 yards in both of Houston's last 2 games and has been a big play weapon for Slowick's offense. Guard Shaq Mason was traded away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before he was immediately extended. Mason has played well and started every single game at right guard for the Houston Texans during a season with multiple injuries across the offensive line. Devin Singletary had a 150-yard performance in running back Dameon Pierce's absence. Dallas Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz was targeted as someone who could provide a dynamic receiving threat for Stroud while serving as a capable blocker in Slowick's offense. The results have been phenomenal thus far, with Schultz improving every week and looking like a reliable target for Stroud with 37 receptions for 421 yards and 4 touchdowns. He mentions Denzel Perryman, Sheldon Rankings, who just had 3 sacks against the Bengals. And also shout out to my guy Denzel Perryman, free Denzel, suspended for the next 3 games for multiple penalties. He keeps on hitting people in the head. However, very tic-tacky, very surprised Denzel Perryman got the suspension. But if you keep on going, George Fant, Shaq Griffin, they have all done fantastic jobs and have all made impacts. George Fant has stepped in at right tackle when Titus Howard broke his hand during training camp, and he's been your starter at right tackle all season. Shaq Griffin, we signed him after he was cut and just had an interception deep in the 4th quarter against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow. This free agency class was a home run hit for Nick Caserio. Star-studded 2003 NFL Draft Class .3. This is where Nick Caserio's year went nuclear. Houston drafted C.J. Stroud at 2nd overall and traded the 12th, 33rd, and a 2024 1st and 3rd round picks to move up to select Will Anderson Jr. at 3rd overall. A massive initial investment in Ryans that has paid immediate dividends. Stroud has thrown for 2,626 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 rushing, and 2 interceptions, while pacing to potentially lead the NFL in passing yards. His play has been so inspired that many national commentators have inserted him not just the Offensive Rookie of the Year race, but the overall league MVP discussion. Anderson hasn't had the same statistical results, but has had a massive impact and leads Houston in quarterback pressures with 35 along with 2 sacks. They are both some of the best, if not the best players on their respective units as rookies. Meanwhile, additional value was found on day 2. Wide receiver Tank Dell was selected in the 3rd round and has been nothing short of phenomenal. Dell leads the Texans with 5 touchdown receptions and has secured 510 receiving yards on 34 catches this season, second to Nico Collins. Linebacker Henry Turo leads Houston with 52 tackles despite his selection in the 5th round. Prior to any injury, center Jared Patterson has started every game for the Houston Texans after he was picked in the 6th round. A A+ for this draft class. Probably one of the best draft classes we've seen in a while. Your franchise quarterback, you drafted 2 centers. The one you want to play is unhealthy. The one that you took in the 6th round before Carolina, like John mentioned, started every single game and did well. I am excited for the future of this Houston Texans draft class. It is only going to get better, guys. We finally got to saw Nick Caserio cook. And then the last point, instantly competitive. This point may largely belong to Ryans and Stroud. However, it's necessary caveat in Caserio's case. The Texans are firmly playoff relevant and could win the AFC South at 5-4. A team that entered the season with the anticipated Vegas win total of 5.5 and what many believe to be the second worst roster in the league behind Arizona is, instead of impact team entering Thanksgiving, they have wins over playoff bound teams like Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. It's impossible to discount just how much the perception and the competitiveness of the Texans have changed. Maybe Caserio finally deserves some credit for that. The article comes to an end. Shout out to John Crumpler for dropping a fire article, but also giving some praise to Nick Caserio. Felt like he needed this, but he hit on almost every single thing that we needed in the offseason and was still active with all the injuries going on. I mean, trading for Josh Jones. Who else? Kenji Green. Shout out to Kendrick Green, man. Get healthy. Josh Jones, you as well. But shout out to general manager Nick Caserio, guys. For more Houston Texans content, y'all feel free to follow me for more. Go Houston. You guys have a very blessed day.